he asked about, you know, this and that, and they've done got that all covered. So
She's gonna make up for all the time she
all I
got.
gotta do is drive her out there and drive her home.
393.
Sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing his mercy and his grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, he'll prepare for us a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. While we walk the pilgrim pathway, clouds will overspread the sky. But when traveling days are over, not a shadow, not a sigh. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Let us then be true and faithful, trusting, serving every day. Just one glimpse of him in glory will the toils of life repay. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Onward to the prize before us, soon his beauty will behold. Soon the pearly gates will open, we shall tread the streets of gold. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory.
All right, good to be here tonight. This time I feel everybody's got a prayer request or testimony on our.
Continue member Johnson Mason, Reverend Johnson, good work in her life.
Amen.
Continue member his father-in-law, his ancestors. God bless them, that he be workful, that he might give them a healing faith in the football they can save you. Continue member my sister-in-law, God bless her, the needs she has. God bless her, take care of her. Continue member my family, that helps you real good, that God will move up on the scene, take care of that. Continue member Diane's brother, God take care of them.
Amen.
The day he came in his house, that was one of her requests was that remember that.
Amen.
Thank you for the mercy, the grace you've given me, the kindness you've shown. Just thank you for all the blessings you've given.
Amen. Amen. Remember this. Somebody else.
I'd like the church to remember me and my family, especially Linda tonight. Remember our daughter, granddaughter, and son-in-law. Remember our grandsons as well. My sister and her family, and my other brother-in-law. And the lady had a seizure. She's back to work, and we just thank God that she's doing better than I expected.
Amen.
So we thank you for that. And 13 years ago. And I said, well, how was it? She's, you know, she's pretty tough gal, my sister. She's a couple of years younger than I am, and she said it hurts. She said, that therapy's bad. I said, it is. She said, yeah. She said, the lady that came to her house to give her therapy took her coffee can, put it under her leg, up next to her ankle, and said, told her, said, lift your leg off that coffee can. She said she couldn't. The therapist left, and when she came back, next visit, she did the same thing, lift your leg up. My sister just popped her leg right off that coffee can. She said, how'd you do that? She said, I cried and had a good long talk with the Lord.
Amen.
Said, I couldn't. He did.
Amen. Amen.
So I just thought that was a blessing when she told me that, you know. And everything.
Amen.
So we know that God can take care of a lot of
Amen.
things. So, it's sad.
Remember this, somebody else.
Like church member us, Teresa Hart, she's got a little change in her medication, so be remembering her for that. That was a little okay. Remember mom, the kids, and grandkids. Remember Dustin, it'll be, I guess Monday, when we get to going to see the doctor. So just keep praying for that, please. For our friend, Kenny Beaman, he's septic, and his arm had a wound, and they drained that, and so they can clean it out, so be in prayer for him. And then, remember my brother and his brother-in-law, they're still got mine. Excuse me. And, remember Brittany and Joyce and Rita and Laura Wilson and Travis, Sarah Brogan, Caitlin Felix, being over at Community Baptist. Remember that young man's wife that was our server at Longhorn. His wife's got the brain swelling. So be in prayer for him. Be in prayer for her, their family. Remember my co-worker's husband. So just remember our unspoken prayer.
Amen. This, somebody else.
Thank God for being here tonight. For all his blessings and
Yeah.
just everything he does for the day. And Scott said, just remember me. This is a new AFib, supposed to be a picture of the AFib and TBC is up and happening. So we're back. But hopefully this goes slow down a little bit. I can sleep at night. Just pray for that. And I have a special unspoken request that you all should remember it. If God opens that door, he opens that door for me. If not, I'll stay in the position that I am. I would actually be going off site, so not working anymore. But just help me pray about that, please. And God knows best. So if I'm not supposed to do, which I tried to do before, and he closed that door, so I'm going to close this one too. So we'll just wait and see. thank him for just all of you guys each day. Just, just for getting us through things that we think we can't get through. It's not that our faith is dim, it's just these human bodies, and, just thank you for all of that.
Amen. Amen. With this. Somebody else?
Please remember the kids, and, that they would remember what they've been taught about the Lord and about how they should live, and, that even if they see people around them doing other things, that they won't be swayed or influenced by that. And pray for protection for them. They're subject to the decisions of a lot of people that are probably not following the Lord. So just pray for protection for them and for God's hand to be upon them. And please keep praying for Dad's legs. And, for my knee, it went out on me this past week, and I just barely even walked on it this past week. It's starting to get a little bit better, but it's still trying to buckle on me quite a bit, so just, if you could remember that. And also my job situation, I'm really thankful that they finally did agree that time that I had to take off, so I didn't get trouble for being out, that was a huge answer to prayer. That was great news, but it's just they're loading that stuff with so much work that I had to pull a couple of all-nighters to get that done, which is not sustainable. We don't get paid overtime either, and it's just not sustainable to have to work that many hours, and not be able to get sleep. So I need wisdom about what to do, if I don't want to, drop it and work them all and get in trouble, but I also don't want to possibly driving or anything else because I'm not able to do that. So just pray that God would show me what to do.
Amen. Amen.
And pray for stuff in Stephen.
Amen. With this. Somebody else? Anything else to remember my family prayers? If you remember all sick in the church, all those on my list. You get some good news for my friend Sean's daughter, Rachel. Cancer did not spread. It is confined to the blood gland, I guess what it was. So they, as far as I know, they're proceeding with everything and going ahead. So pray for her and the baby and her husband and Sean and his wife as well. They obviously worried about them. Again, all the others on my list. Continue to remember them in your prayers. Just continue to remember all of our missionaries. Sister Church, Cecilia Correa, Lisa, Mike, his wife, and mother-in-law, and Dave's mom and dad, Donnie's mom and dad, continue with him as well. They can get some answers for her. Again, the appointment is coming up, so ask them to touch and get that taken care of as well. And job situations for everybody. Ask them to touch that. Needs prayers as well for some things for me as well. No health issues, just some things, lots going on. So ask Lord to touch and take care of those needs as well. Don't forget, be praying for Brother Rick as he comes for Father's Day. Father's Day, Rick and his family, they come to sing. Also for homecoming coming up, Brother Kevin's going to be coming to preach for us, and their family will be singing for homecoming. So looking forward to that. I've asked him, I always ask him to come, but asked him, and he wanted to pray about it first. It's easier for him to come when he wasn't a pastor, and so he just would ask Randy if it was all right, and he'd go. But now that he's the pastor, it's different. And I don't know that he's missed a service to preach somewhere else. So this will be the first one. So remember them. I know he'll be nervous about that, but remember them as they travel up. And looking forward to that, excited about that, and ask the Lord to take care of them. Again, a lot to pray about tonight. Again, don't forget. Just remember all the ones that they weren't mentioned tonight. Remember all the
she had some things done on Tuesday, and, but I didn't know that till Monday evening, but just, pray for her. God will heal her.
Anybody else? All right, anybody else? Anything, else want to request something with the right hand? Let's get right together in the altar. Let's Brother Ford, if you want to lead the Lord in prayer.
Father, I thank you for this time. Together under your name.
Lord, we love you tonight. We thank you for the opportunity to be in your house. Lord, we thank you for our nation. We're blessed to be out here today. Lord, we thank you for your mercy and your grace tonight. Lord, we thank you for your kindness to us, Lord. We thank you most of all for saving us tonight. Lord, we're grateful for that. Lord, we know how deserving we are. Lord, we're thankful for that. Lord, that you give us a place that we can come to. Lord, that we can worship in the Spirit and truth tonight. Lord, we ask you to reach down and touch you. Lord, move in a mighty way tonight. Lord, do the work that only you can do. I just ask you tonight, Lord, that we just bless, Lord, what's those that are here, Lord, bless you, Lord, that you're coming out tonight. Lord, we ask you tonight, Lord, that you touch those that are out here tonight, Lord, watch over the captain, provide for them, for their needs tonight, Lord. Ask you to bless them, Lord, just Lord, we ask you tonight, Lord, heal their needs, Lord, strengthen them, Lord, as they wait for that, Lord, just take care of them, tired of the surgery, Lord, just take the pain away from her until then. Lord, we ask you to give her strength as she goes through the surgery, Lord, that she'll recover, Lord, that everything will be good, Lord, that the therapy was just moving forward, it wouldn't be painful. Lord, we ask you to give her strength to get through that tonight, Lord, and ask you to touch their health tonight, Lord, watch their protection, Lord, touch their daughters, granddaughters tonight, Lord, bless their grandsons, and their families tonight, Lord, their brother-in-law, and his sister and her family today, Lord, take her, Lord, we ask you to touch your son-in-law tonight, Lord, touch them, Lord, we ask you to touch Lord tonight, Lord, continue to bless her to get better, Lord, just strengthen her as she's back to work, Lord, just have you in that, giving us tonight, Lord, you just touch and bless her tonight, Lord, watch over and protect them. Lord, we ask you tonight, Lord, that you reach them and touch them, just bless Brother Scott in the streets tonight, Lord, we ask you to bless him, Lord, that we just touch him tonight, Lord, bless him, strengthen him, Lord, everywhere in their life tonight, Lord, touch their job situation, Lord, that you'll protect and provide for them tonight, Lord, take care of their needs, Lord, touch their health tonight, Lord, touch their job situation, Lord, ask you tonight, Lord, just to bless you, give them guidance, Lord, give them discernment, what they need to do, Lord, in their job, and we ask you tonight, Lord, to touch Dustin and Sarah tonight, Lord, touch them, watch over, protect them, and we ask you to take the pressure away from them tonight, Lord, touch Lord Wilson and Joyce Lee and Travis and Sarah, Lord, tonight, we ask you to touch them and Dean tonight, Lord, we ask you to touch him and Lord, just touch his health, Lord, take care of his Sarah, touch his mom, Lord, kids and grandkids, Lord, we ask you to touch them and Lord, all those that are listening, Lord, all those spoken requests as well, Lord, just have your way in that. Lord, we kind of direct them in all that they do tonight, Lord, just ask you to touch them. We'll ask you to touch Honey right in the streets tonight, Lord, touch them, touch their health, Lord. You give them great desire to be in your house tonight, Lord, just get them where they get back to being faithful to you tonight, Lord, we ask you to touch their kids, Lord, get them in your house as well, Lord, just touch them, Lord, just give them that right, Lord, get back in your house tonight, Lord. Lord, they need to be saved, Lord, we ask you to save them, Lord, we ask you to touch Lord, this family tonight, Lord, reach down and touch, Lord, just watch over, protect and provide for them, take care of their needs tonight, Lord. We ask you to touch their health tonight, Lord, take care of those needs. We ask you to touch Josh and Megan. Josh's father-in-law tonight, his aunt tonight, Lord, watch them, Lord, save them tonight. Lord, you do it, touch his sister-in-law and his niece tonight, Lord, touch their health and give them, Lord, just touch Miss Diana's brother, Lord, just get back right with you, get them back in your house, Lord, they can serve you and be faithful to you tonight, Lord, we ask you to touch them, Lord, take care of those needs again, touch those quarters to heaven tonight, Lord, touch his legs, take care of the needs that he's got, Lord, ask you to bless his strength, Lord, continue to provide for him, Lord, we ask you tonight, Lord, that you reach down and touch, Lord, that you touch Lord, touch the job situation, thank you for good news there. And we ask you to touch this melody as well, touch her request, Lord, ask you to touch Except Stephen, Lord, touch them, touch their treatment, Lord, his grandkids tonight, Lord, bless them. Watch over, protect them, Lord, take care of their needs again. Lord, we ask you to watch out for them tonight, Lord, deal with service in their home situation, Lord, deal with that. And we ask you to get their mom and dad saved, Lord, deal with raising in your house tonight, Lord, just touch them and take care of those needs all that they do tonight. We'll just bless them, and we'll just again remind them that we'll just remain faithful to you tonight. We'll be our desire. We'll just touch Lisa tonight. We'll heal her, touch Steve, and do him tonight. We'll touch his health. We'll take care of his situation. And we ask you tonight, Lord, every way that we'll touch Sunday Hudson tonight, Lord. I pray protection tonight for them, take care of their needs. We'll ask you to touch John's situation. We'll just strengthen her as she's working with a job tonight. We'll ask you to touch her. We'll ask you to touch him, watch over protection. We'll take care of him. We ask you to save him in an early age tonight. We'll just take away his life tonight. And we ask you that you touch Timmy Christian. We'll touch him. I pray protection tonight for them. Take their needs tonight. Take care of his job situation. Every way that we'll just touch their health. We'll bless you, strengthen them. We'll take care of those needs. We'll bless them be able to figure out what's wrong tonight. We'll get her fixed. Get that taken care of. We'll be able to do that tonight. We'll just touch. Make a way for it. Where nobody else can find. We'll do whatever you can. We'll just ask you to have your way. That we'll touch them. Actually, we'll get them back in your house as well. We'll just have your way in their life. We'll just touch this in rain. We'll heal them. Take care of their health issues. We'll touch all the missionaries. We'll bless them. Watch over protect them. Provide for them. Take care of their needs tonight. We'll touch Sean. That's great tonight. We'll ask you to heal her. Take the cancer away. We'll watch over protect her the baby tonight. We'll just strengthen him. We'll strengthen Sean. We'll just get it. We'll just keep comfort. We'll just take care of their needs tonight. We'll need to be saved. We'll ask you to save them tonight. We'll know you're able to do that. We'll just ask you to bless them, strengthen them, give them courage to this thing. Know that you can take care of it tonight. We'll ask you to bless them. That's Mike and his wife and his son-in-law tonight. We'll touch them. Tonight we'll ask you to touch Brandon as he leaves. We'll just bless him and guide him in all that he does tonight. We'll bless him and his family. We'll touch them. Watch over protect them tonight. We'll ask you to touch. We'll be extended touch Dave's mom and dad, Donnie's mom and dad. We'll ask you to bless them tonight. We'll bless the church tonight. We'll bless us to be where you have us to be. We'll just ask you tonight, Lord, that you bless our country. We'll watch over protect, lead, guide, and direct us in all that we do. And we just thank you ahead of time for answering these prayers in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Chapter number 29. Do you know what that's for? Start with 8. Start with 9. Y'all missed that. I jumped, man. I got a lot of verses covered last week. That's the first time that's ever happened. I covered more than 2 verses in a night. So, again, chapter number 29, book of Psalm. We appreciate the Lord's goodness and just thinking about today. Had several conversations with people, and folks that don't know the Lord, some that do, and the mindset of people that don't know God, never been to church, they have this perception that everybody that goes to church either thinks that they're better than they are, or they think that they're better than they are. And I had a conversation with a young man, and he was talking about, well, I kind of messed up. I was brought up in church. I went 3 times a week, and I got burned out. I don't go. And he said, that's probably not the right way to look at it. You're right. It's not the right way to look at it. But again, you can get burned out on anything. But I think if the Lord's in it, if you get saved, the Lord's in it, you won't get burned out on it. You'll grow from it. Now, where you get burned out on it is if it's just religion. Religion will burn you out. You'll get wore out on trying to follow the rules and keep up with everything, and trying to keep up with what your perception of being good is. And I'm glad that I'm serving God, that I didn't have to get right before I got saved. I got saved to get right. And I'd say this, we're all grateful for that, because until we got saved. And, I was thinking about that and kind of going along with this. And we finished that. I'm going to start verse 8. I know we finished that, but the word I used in verse number 8 was remarkableness. And again, I don't know that I didn't look it up to see if it's a real word or not. It probably isn't, but it works good. It fits good for there. And it said the voice of the Lord shaketh the wilderness, the Lord shaketh the wilderness of Kadesh. It talks about all the things that just his voice can do, and we've covered a lot of that, through this first 8 verses. But again, I go back to the song, The Love of God. Listen to that a dozen times today too. We can't describe the love of God for us. We can't describe the power of God. We can't describe the wisdom of God. We're not capable. His ways are higher than our ways. We can't comprehend the ways of God. People say, well, you got a Bible for that. Yeah, but I can't comprehend all of it. All right, we grow a little bit at a time. I'll say this, Brother Porter, how long you been saved? How many years? I put you on the spot. You don't have to give me exact, but for a long time, right?
Yeah, probably 65, 70 years.
70 years. Been saved 70 years. Do you know a little bit more now than you did the day you got saved? Isn't that good? That's what it's supposed to be. Amen. Me and my wife have been married a long time. She said 122 years we've been married. And you know what? I know her a little bit better now than I did the day we got married. I know her a little bit better now than the day that she knows me better too. She's still stuck with me. There's something to say about that, right? But that's part of it, is growing. You learn some things, and you deal with. Listen, God already knew. She learned my shortcomings over time, right? She always thought I was perfect. She never thought that. I had to trick her into marrying me, but you learn things, and if you're married, you learn to live with their flaws, right? She learned to live with my flaws, right? It's not that she loves my flaws. She didn't know they were there. Some of them she didn't know. She knew some of them, but she didn't know all of them. But as you get married, you start growing in this thing. All of a sudden you start finding things like, man, I didn't know that. That's weird. That drives me crazy. I wish he'd quit doing that. I wish he'd quit doing it. But you deal with it, right? None of that stuff surprises God. God knew my shortcomings before I was ever born. He said, preacher, you didn't have them before you were born. Yeah, with God I did. He already knew. God didn't learn it. He knew it. He just knew it. He knew all of our shortcomings before we were ever born, and yet he still loved us. I mean, if you'll be honest with yourself, and not everybody does that, but when I'm being honest with myself, I'm amazed that he loves me. Mark's been singing that song, He Has. Listen to that today too, but a bunch today. And he said, I've not always been faithful, but he has. See, his faithfulness my faithfulness is it required for his. And then I'm glad we'd be in trouble. We'd be in trouble if that's the case. Now, our faithfulness is required for his blessings, but it's not required for his faithfulness. All right? God will not bless over sin. And we look around and you think how unworthy, and listen, it's designed this way, all right? Men have a lot of, the way it's supposed to be, right? The man is supposed to be the head of the house. He's supposed to provide for the family. I know we have women that work, I understand all that stuff. But the way God designed it, there's some weight. There's some weight on a man. All right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there's some things that weigh on a man. As a dad, you worry about your children, and you've got things that you try to do, and you want to make sure you're doing that right. God gave them to you for you to raise them, and you want to make sure you're doing that right. You want to make sure you're providing for them. You want to make sure your decisions are right for everybody. You're not just making decisions as a husband and a dad. You're not making decisions just for you. You're making decisions for everybody. Now, I know when the kids grow up, I know that you're not making the decisions for them. I understand all that. But you're still concerned for them. You're still their dad. I'm still their dad, whether they like it or not. I'm still their dad. I still want to make sure I help them any way I can to let them make the right decision. They're grown, they make their own decisions, but it's my job to point them to the right. There's some weight to that, right? There's some weight to that. As a boss at work, there's a lot of people that count on me, and I scramble around trying to schedule things and shifting things and getting this guy, putting the right guy in the right spot, and making sure the customer takes. And there's a lot of weight there, right? Everybody don't see that, and I'm not complaining about it. I'm not saying look at me. I'm saying that's the way it works. As a pastor, there's a lot of weight there. All right. Again, there's no complaining about it. I'm not complaining about it. That's not what it is. But I want to explain to you the way that weight gets lightened. All right. We might not get into this tonight or not, but again, there's a lot of weight. And it's all weight that nobody sees. You see them, Mr. Olympia, the strongman guy, when they start putting all that weight on there, they put 1,000 pounds on that bar, and everybody can see that weight, right? Because that bar bends. And them guys spot there, they're yelling and grunting, and they jump up, and that bar bounces a little bit, and everybody's going, whoa, look at that. Look at all the weight that guy just lifted. And they could see that, so everybody could understand that. All right? We don't know what the weight that everybody's carrying. We don't know that. As a dad, you can relate to other dads. As a husband, you can relate to other husbands. But you don't know what their weight is. You don't know what they're carrying. You don't listen. As a mom, you can relate to other moms, but you don't know the weight that they're carrying. I mean, you don't know. You don't have any idea. As a kid, we look around, think kids got it made. They don't have to worry about nothing, but they do. Amen. We don't know what kind of weight that they're carrying. Sometimes, I'll say this. I remember as a kid, I worried about things, and I look back at it and I say, what a dummy. Why was I worried about that? I mean, I'd lose sleep over things I was worried about. And in the grand scheme of things, it didn't mean anything. I wasn't going to prison because I forgot to do my homework. There's times I was scared to death. I was going to jail for this and that. You worry about stuff. You don't know what kind of weight that they've got. Right? We don't know what kind of weight people are dealing. And again, I'm bad for this, but I'm old school. All right. I was referred to today as the older group at work. I had a young man call me, pointed at me, and he said, the older guys, and he pointed at me, and I looked around and said, who he's talking to. I said, you talking to me? And he said, well, yeah, you got your older guys. I said, I'll still look you. I said, I ain't gonna worry about that. And he's like, well, no, I didn't mean anything by it. And I'm like, and I said, no, I don't take offense to it. I'm all right. I don't lump myself in with the older guys. And I said, all those guys, he's talking about guys that are going to retire in a couple of years. And I'm like, you ain't got to worry about that. I'll be here longer than you are. And he said, you'll be retired before I can retire. So we'll still be working together. But I was lumped into that group, and that don't bother me. I don't mind that. I'm old school. I'm a firm believer that we've got a group of folks, and it don't have to be just young people. We've got a group of folks that are alive today that whine about, I got no worries that Miss Linda's going to fly through that knee rehab. All right, I know it's hurting right now, but I got no worries about that because she's old school. I didn't say she was, Miss Linda, I didn't say he's old. I said you're old school. She's going to get through that. It ain't going to be a problem. I watched my mother-in-law go through, she was in her 60s, she go through heart surgery, and she's up and about, and I never heard her groan. I mean, I never heard her say anything. But when you're old school, right, you're old school, you deal with those things, and you understand that life throws problems at you. You know what life does? Life adds to the weight. Life adds to that. Life puts a little bit more on that bar, and it bends a little bit more every day. Right? Life does that to you. And we got a generation now that if the internet's not working, they're in panic mode. All right, if the cell phone goes down, it's not working. What am I going to do? Listen, I whine with the best of them when the air goes out and it's 100 degrees outside. I didn't have air growing up, but I got it now. I'm used to it. I got soft. I like having air conditioning. But we whine about everything. We whine. We act like the world is going to end when we get stuck in traffic. Everybody, you ever notice when you're stuck in traffic, you know the reason it's called traffic? Because you ain't the only one in it. Amen? If you was the only one in it, it would no longer be traffic. And we whine about it. And I don't like it. I get grumpy. I yell and beep. And I don't know why you beep. They can't go anywhere. They're stuck like you are. I get aggravated with stuff. But the reality is sometimes the weight that we lug around is unnecessary weight. We put things on ourselves that aren't really necessary. There's no reason to get mad about that trip. There ain't nothing you can do about it. If you're going to be late, I hate being late. Y'all, everybody knows me knows I can't stand to be late. I think it drives me nuts to be late. And I get to work, and I don't have to be there till 7:30. And I get to work. If I'm not there by 6, I'm aggravated. I feel like I'm late. And they'll make fun of me. Oh, he's late again. I'll be 5 after 6, and I don't have to be there at 7:30, but they know that I want to be there. It drives me crazy. Can't stand it. And again, if somebody's waiting on me and see where, I want to call them and say, hey, look, I'm in traffic. But don't add that extra weight on there. The world's not going to end. Amen? It's not going to end. And if you're waiting on somebody,
I used to get so aggravated. We're waiting on the day. No, let's they know what time we're leaving. Why ain't they here yet? It ain't no reason to get that way. Right? There's no reason to get that way. It's just added weight. Added weight. No reason. But we got a generation that whines about everything. Well, the world's out to get me. I had to work today. I had to work 5 hours today. Do you believe that? What's wrong with people? What's wrong with people? And I look around and I think about this, and I'm old school. I think we got, I don't want to make light of people's problems, but I also don't think everything's a problem. Amen? What was it? Brother Atwood said about his daughter, she's lazy leg or something. He said that he wasn't making light of it, but but that's what we got a lot of. We got to, and I think it was a legit thing. But when you look around and you think, what are they whining about? The World War II generation. Those folks that went through were adults going through World War II. If they could look at what we're dealing with now and they look around, they say, oh, what has happened to our country? What has happened to our country? We was eating dinner the other night, and a few weeks ago, it was Memorial Day, is what it was? That old fellow, the Air Force guy. It was Memorial Day weekend, and we was eating dinner, and I think I told you all this. He's a 92-year-old man, and I know it was his wife. He was joking, saying it was his girlfriend, but it might have been his girlfriend. I don't know, but at 92 years old, I'd give him credit. He got him a girlfriend now, and hopefully it's because his wife's no longer here, not that he just took him a girlfriend. But he's sitting there and he's eating dinner, and I'm watching him. And he's sharp as a tack. He's rattling off the years that he was in the Air Force, and I was like, man, I hope I make it to 92. I don't picture that happening, but if I make it to 92, I hope I can do what he's doing. All right, eating steak. And he's eating steak, but I can watch his hand. That hand was shaking. But at 92, I guess if you pick up a fork, you're doing good. He drove there. They drove there, 92 years old, and he's eating and he's doing all. And I looked at that and I thought, man, what about all the stuff that man's seen? What about all the stuff that he went through? What all the stuff that he went through, he dealt with. I don't know if 92, I don't know if that would that be World War II? If he's 92 years old? That'd been World War II, wouldn't it? Yeah. And he had his jacket on, and he had the hat, and I look at that and I think, I bet he looked around at us and he thinks, what a bunch of sissies. They went through some stuff, man. The hardest. Everybody wants to be comfortable, right? You buy a house, you put, what do we do? There was a time. How many of y'all was around when they didn't have indoor plumbing? You ever been to every house that didn't have indoor plumbing, right? Right? You know what? I thought Caleb raised his hand. I thought he raised his hand back there. He did. We've always had indoor plumbing. Don't listen to us. You know why they made indoor plumbing? Because it's a lot more comfortable, isn't it? A lot more comfortable to sit inside the house at 90 degrees with the air conditioning on than it is to sit. Anybody ever sit? I know what it's like to sit in an outhouse when it's 100 degrees outside. Amen. I know what that's like. I did that. We had one. I had to dig the hole. We put the outhouse over it. And when it got full, I had to move the outhouse and fill that hole in. You want to talk about wine? I did some wine, man. That wasn't good. That wasn't pleasant. All right. But you do that. You know why you did that? Because it's a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more comfortable in my bathroom now than it is in that outhouse. Amen. So we do things to make ourselves comfortable. And then when we're no longer comfortable, we whine about it. Instead of trying to figure out, hey, listen, that's not comfortable. Let me see if I can fix it. We just whine about it. The world's out to get us, and nobody loves us. And it's always somebody else's fault. You'll discover that the majority of your problems, the majority of my problems, aren't somebody else's fault. There are some. But if you're being honest with yourself, the majority of your problems are not somebody else's fault. We make bad decisions sometimes. We make dumb decisions sometimes. Sometimes we make good decisions and they turn out bad. Amen? So, but all those things happen and they become weight. And you start adding that on and adding that on. And what happens when you get enough weight that bogs you down? Your knees buckle. Right? As Beth said, her knees bother her. Right? You don't want it to buckle. Worry about Miss Linda's knee buckling. You know what's going to make that knee buckle real quick? Take about 400 pounds and put it on your shoulders and see how quick it buckles. Amen. It will. And then you ain't going to stand under that. And what happens, we add pressure, we add that weight, we do all those things. And again, the Bible said, let's lay aside every weight and sin that does so easily beset. I'm so old school. We used to have, I don't know if they still have it. Now they have these, you can wrap a parachute around you and you run and that thing goes behind you and it pulls you and it slows you down and you're supposed to help build your speed. I'm of the age where we used to put ankle weights and strap them on your ankles and you do, or you put something heavy on and you run with that. And they said, why are you doing that? That slows you down. Yeah, but if you can run with all that, the minute you take it off, you're a lot lighter and it'll help your speed. You can go faster. And if you ever done any of that, that running like that, you're amazed at how much better it feels to run without it. I think they were like 10-pound ankle weights. So you're running with 20 pounds on your ankles. And you know what? If you're not careful with that, if you don't pick your feet up enough as it is, if you're not careful with that, you'll trip over something because you're not lifting your leg. And it teaches you to do those things. And you got all that weight. And when that weight gets so heavy on you, you're like, I just can't go anymore. So I take them off. Now let's run. All of a sudden, you start, in the Army, when they run, they had them 80-pound backpacks full of stuff. And you're running in boots. All right? You're running, you're doing all that stuff. That's a lot of weight. They said if you can do it with that, when you take that off there, it's not difficult at all. And sometimes I look around and I think, the Bible said let's lay aside those weights. But I think sometimes the reason, there are times in our life where God puts the weight there. God adds that weight. He said, Lord, I don't understand why you're doing it. I don't understand why you're adding this extra weight. Lord, you know I'm having a hard enough time. Lord, you know I've got enough weight as it is. I'm dealing with all these other weights. I'm dealing with all these other problems. Lord, why are you adding more to me? And the Lord said, you're going to need it down the road. You're going to need it down the road. They train them in basic training. Why? They do that and get them in good shape. Why? Because they're going to need that down the road. They can't train. If they're in war, they're not training anymore. They're in battle. They're training for battle. So all that weight that is put on there purposely so that when they get to battle, the difficult time, when they're out there and they're dealing with things that are they don't know what's coming, they're prepared for that. They're able to do that. And they'll trick you into doing things. They'll have you doing this, and they learn to teach you directions. They'll take you out the woods, get you lost, and try to find your way back. They do all that. The reason that they do that is not because they want to add weight to you just to be adding weight to you. They're training you because down the road, when you get into battle, you're going to need that. There's not going to be a director there with ribbons tied on trees so you know which direction to go. Those folks that back in Vietnam, when they was fighting in Vietnam, they talked about it was a different terrain than they'd been used to. They hadn't seen anything like that. And they get out there and they're dealing with all that stuff, and they just didn't know the directions. They'd get lost. And so they trained that's what they trained for. Right? You take somebody, you blindfold them, you stick them in the jungle somewhere and say, find your way out. That's difficult to do, especially if you've never been trained. So they put you in situations here where they're training you, and they put you in difficult situations. You want to see how you're going to respond and to help you know how to respond. And they do all of those things. So God does the same thing. When God knows when we're going to go through something, and God will put that weight on us. He'll put something on us, and you feel like it's not fair. You don't understand why He's doing it. It don't make sense. Lord, I'm serving you. I'm doing the right thing. Job said, I ain't done anything wrong, and I don't know why God did this, but He's still good. He said, Lord, give, Lord, take it away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Right? He said, I don't know why God's doing it. I don't know why He added all this weight to me. God never told me why. But when God does that, He's doing it for a reason. All right? Don't get rid of the weight that God put on there. Don't get rid of the weight that God put on there until He's ready for you to get rid of it. I mean, we need discernment. We need God to show us, Lord, is this a weight that I put on there? Is it a weight the devil's put on there? Is it an unnecessary weight? Because I want to lay those aside. I want to lay them off of me. I believe there's times where God puts a weight on us just to see if we'll lay it aside. If we'll lay it aside. There's some people that like me and they love the woe is me. Right? They're not happy unless they're unhappy. Everybody knows everybody knows people like that. They're not happy unless they can complain about something. If everything's going good, they'll find something. They'll find something to complain about. They'll find something to be wrong. I mean, that's not the way we ought to be. That's not the way we ought to be. Listen, God's good to us. And again, there's not enough time. There's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough days in the week. There's not enough weeks in the month. Not enough months in the year to brag on the remarkableness of God. There's not enough words to describe the goodness of God. It said here, verse number 9, the voice of the Lord maketh the hinds to calve, and discovereth the forest, and his temple doth everyone speak of his glory. He said, his voice, all these things he speaks. He speaks them into existence. He speaks them into existence. I'll lump this into the remarkableness as well. He speaks them into, he said, in his temple doth everyone speak of his glory. That's what we're supposed to do here. Talk about the goodness of God. Listen, I love prayer requests. I think they're needed. But I think, and I don't want anybody to get offended because I want the prayer. I want to hear the prayer. We want to pray for everybody. All right, so don't nobody get offended at this. I think sometimes we ought to just say, remember my list. If there's nothing new on it, remember my list. And I'm going to take a few minutes just to brag on God. Amen. Brother Atwood, Brother Porter, do it every service. They'll go through their list and then they'll say, I'm just grateful for the help that God's given me. Thank you for his mercy. Thank you for his goodness that he's shown me. That's what we're supposed to do. And again, don't nobody get mad. I do prayer requests too. We don't know to pray if you don't give the prayer requests, right? We don't know what to pray for, right? So I'm not against those. But I think, and we're going to do this one Sunday evening here coming up. We're just going to spend the Sunday evening just bragging on God. Not going to take prayer requests. You're just going to say, well, remember everybody's prayer requests. We're not going to take prayer requests. We are going to just give everybody an opportunity to brag on God. We'll sing a few songs, give everybody an opportunity to brag on God. Why? Because we don't do it enough. We don't do it enough. It said, in his temple doth everyone speak of his glory. I mean, when we come in here, we come to worship him. Come to get a blessing. I come to get a blessing. Why? Because he's the giver of blessings. I come to get a blessing. I want to be a blessing, but I like to get them too. I like to get them too. You know what? I can get a blessing, and I can be a blessing, and it don't stop me from getting a blessing. Amen. I'm glad God's good. He's undescribably good. It's just, and I said sometimes I'll be driving in my truck and I'll just think, and you gotta be careful because I'm a crier, right? I cry. They make fun of me. We see a movie. If there's a movie about a dad and his kids or something, I'll just cry like that was the one, Courageous. That movie there, I laughed. I belly laughed at some things, and that snake guy in the back seat, I laughed at that. And then they do the I can't even talk about it. I'll be driving, and I just think about how good the Lord is. I'll sit there for a little bit and be thinking about all the weights that I'm carrying. And I'll think about all those weights, and I'll have my pity party for a minute, and I start thinking about how good God is. I think about how good he is. Number one, I couldn't carry all those weights without him. Amen. Couldn't carry them without him. And I said, well, how do you do that? I don't, the Lord's just good to me. The Lord's good to me. It's amazing how much lighter things get when the Lord's carrying them for you. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. When Kevin was little, before he got stronger, I didn't have to do this anymore. When he's little, he'd start lifting some heavy stuff, and if there's something I looked like he's gonna hurt himself, or I didn't think he could get it, he didn't see me doing it, and I'd pick it up behind him, and he'd start doing it. Look what I did, I'm helping him out with it. It's amazing how light it is when you got somebody helping you. It's amazing how light those weights are when you give them to God. He's the one that's helping you carry it. He's the one that's helping you carry it. I appreciate the story this evening, Brother Atwood. She said, I can't do it, but the Lord can. See, there's a lot that I can't do, but it gets done because the Lord can. I'm glad. It doesn't matter how heavy it gets. You know, there's nothing too heavy for him to carry. There's some things that'll crush us without him. There's some things that would crush us without him. I sure am glad. That he carries it for me, that he helps me. There's times where he just carries it all and says, come on, get up, I got this one. There's times that you can do it. You can do it. I'm right here with you. And I think I'm carrying it, but it's him holding it like this. Get me through it. Get me through it. The Lord sure is good. He's remarkable. I could probably get get the thesaurus out there and just start listing off words about how remarkable he is, how incredible that he is, and all knowing, omnipotent, and all those things. All those things you can describe him, and they still don't talk about how good that he is. He's good to us tonight. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for his mercy, his grace, and his kindness to us. He did not have to die for us, but he did. He didn't have to die for us, but he did. Verse number 10 said, the Lord sitteth upon the flood, yea, the Lord sitteth king forever. The Bible talks about of his kingdom there shall be no end in the book of Isaiah. Of his kingdom there shall be no end. He's the King of kings and Lord of lords. Verse number 11, the Lord will give strength unto his people. The Lord will bless his people with peace. You know what peace is? That's a weight being lifted off of you. That's a weight being lifted off of you. There's something to be said about having peace. You can have a lot of stuff, but if you don't have peace, you can be wealthy and have all the toys in the world, but if you don't have peace in the home, it don't mean a thing. Well, there's something to be said about having a peaceful home. Everybody ain't fighting all the time. Everybody's not bickering. What's the old phrase, peace and quiet? I just want some peace and quiet. There's some value to peace and quiet. We've got peace in our home, ain't a whole lot of quiet. We only got one quiet. Well, two quiet. We got Mom and Caleb are the only quiet ones. The rest of us get a little bit loud. But we've got peace. We've got peace in our house. I'm grateful for that tonight. I'm grateful for that. See, our dogs don't bark very often. We got quiet dogs too. 3 of them. Chickens get loud every once in a while. We don't let them in the house. Thank the Lord for that. Lord's good to us tonight. All right. Anybody got anything in their heart?
God has been hearing this for saving me tonight, this for peace that he's given me time and time again. And, growing up, had a very peaceful home. I don't ever remember my parents arguing in front of us. If they had an argument, it was away from us. So I don't remember them ever arguing in front of us. And my mom told me one day that it's something that, you know, they decided before they even had children. When they had children, they would not, if they had a little squabble, which you can't live with somebody in that squabble with that. I just thank God that I was raised in a Christian, peaceful home, and, that I had parents that raised us to the best of their ability, and, Scott and I thank God for Scott. He's, very peaceful, and, I know some things he stays peaceful, so, thank God. I just thank him for just, again, just for all he does and all he's going to do.
Amen. Amen.
Somebody else?
I thank God that my daughter graduated from
Amen.
her honor college, Street Out.
Oh,
Amen. Amen.
She called, she got ready.
All right, anybody else? All right. Don't forget service Sunday morning, 10 o'clock. We'll say that you're ready to go till then, go pray and come pray.